What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. We made it. 2018 is here. I hope you had a good holiday weekend, New Year's weekend, New Year's Eve, and today, New Year's. Maybe you're waking up a little later because you had some fun last night. But we had some video game news. Yes, that's right. There was some pretty crazy stuff going on Amazon yesterday that, really blew some people's minds and set the speculation world really on fire. People were going crazy trying to figure some stuff out, so this is going to be a lot of fun to talk about. And a really cool franchise from a while ago might be making a comeback if fans want it, though. Guys, let's get started today. So randomly out of nowhere, I don't know what happened here, but Amazon started listing all of these placeholder Switch titles all over the place. I mean, there were tons. People were saying it got up over 30 different ones. Now, last I saw, when I was counting, I saw, I think, over 25 or 26 because they put numbers in the title for each one of them. And then they used a picture that says, like, placeholder for announcement at the Nintendo press conference. I think I remember seeing that image back during the January one, so I don't think that image that they used was new. I think it was one that they've had for a little while, and they throw it up there for some of these placeholder dates. But it's very interesting to see this because there is a number of different prices that we saw. We saw $60, we saw $70, $75, $80, $100 just being thrown up on Amazon everywhere. Like, it was all over the place. People were keeping track, and they just kept popping up. And this, of course, leads to massive speculation about this Nintendo Direct that we all know is happening, right? We saw in the EA leaked documents that talked about Faye being at this Direct. It seems pretty obvious that they need some kind of Direct to set the tone for 2018, to show us all the games that we need to see. Maybe release dates for things like a Pokemon, maybe gameplay for that or a Metroid, maybe some smaller titles here and there, and then a few bigger ones from third parties. It's very clear we need a Nintendo Direct, and we need it soonish, right? Beginning middle of January, and now it looks like Amazon may have they may have gone a little early here because they did start to pull these down. Like, they started to take them down one by one, which led most of us to believe, oh, they put this stuff up early. And this isn't uncommon. Like I said, when I was at different stores working and everything, we would get word about games that the public didn't know about that was pretty much a confidential thing between wholesalers and retail stores to get you ready for advertising purposes. They would tell us about a game ahead of time, so we know, okay, we need some kind of documentation or we need posters printed and made for when this gets announced so we can get ready for pre-orders. That was a thing. There were a lot of games, Call of Duties, Battlefields, Maddens. Oh, Maddens was pretty obvious, but we would always know the cover athlete before it was actually revealed, and it was set up as like a don't tell anyone or we could sue you kind of thing. So we would have to be very quiet about it. Systems we didn't know as much about, but definitely games. So this isn't new to me. This is pretty clear to me anyway. While it's still speculation, Amazon knows about games and they know how many they should be putting up and getting ready for. The big question here is, what were those $100, $80 price tags? I mean, was that for collector's editions like we assume? I don't think they're going to try to get more money than that for something like, I don't know, like a 64 gig, 32 gig cart. No, nothing like that. I also had the thought that those ones could be like where they bundle things like a season pass together with a normal game. So we get a game for 60 and a season pass for 20. I don't think we get a season pass for 40 would be, but like something like that. That was my other thought. But now it's pretty much all eyes on Nintendo because they have to, at this point, announce the Direct soonish, right? I'd like to get them to give us a week. I don't think they will. They'll give us like 2 days like they usually do. But now it's all eyes on this, and what could these placeholder dates, these games, what could they be? The dates, the games, everything. What are we looking at here? So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun because it sounds like with all these placeholder spots that Amazon put up, Nintendo might have a more packed January Direct than I originally thought. Now, of course, this is all rumor and speculation. That could just be, oh, they put too many up or something, right? Maybe they were supposed to put 12 up and they put like 30 up by accident. Clearly, they weren't supposed to do that because they would have just left them if it didn't really matter, or they wouldn't have pulled them down right away when people started realizing it. So let me know what you guys think about this whole situation surrounding Amazon, Nintendo placeholders, and, well, a Nintendo Direct that we assume is coming up. I would love to see it announced on the 1st, so like today. But more than likely, because it's kind of a day where everybody takes off work, I wouldn't expect it any earlier than Tuesday or Wednesday, to be honest. But hey, who knows at this point? We could see it at any time. Next up, let's talk about Dino Crisis. That's right. I talked to you guys a little bit in the intro about a game that fans might want to see come back from Capcom, and that game is Dino Crisis. And this was really cool. This kind of came out of nowhere. A user on Twitter asked about, hey, what are the possibility of Dino Crisis coming back? Something like this. This was Jaw Muncher on Twitter. And Capcom Dev 1, their grouping and their developers that work on things like Resident Evil, replied saying, if a lot of people wish. And that kind of set the stage there for everyone to just go, oh, Dino Crisis might come back. If enough people want this game, I could see them kind of doing something with it, because obviously Resident Evil has been their biggest franchise for them to really develop around and figure out. And I think they got something here with Resident Evil 7 or Biohazard. Even though it didn't sell as well as something like Resident Evil 6, Resident Evil 6 actually had more mainstream appeal than it should have, because it kind of mirrored more of an action game than a horror game. Horror games don't usually sell a ton, right? They don't sell a ton of copies. You can usually get more money out of it from DLC, which they appear to be doing with Resident Evil 7. But still, I would like to see Dino Crisis, and what's cool is that's a game that instead of going more towards the horror aspect, they can actually turn around and go to more of the action aspect. Things with like actual dual gun sets and everything. You could actually put dinosaurs all over the place, slap one of those on the front cover, and I think it will appeal more to a mainstream audience than something like Resident Evil would. Now, of course, the original one I remember playing back on the PS1, for example, back in, 1999. I know it finished up around 2003 was the last time we saw a Dino Crisis game, but I would love to see this franchise come back. I did have a little bit of a concern here. I don't know if enough people are going to remember Dino Crisis or were even around when it was even out. Like, that's my other thought, is there's so many new gamers now might just not even care or know about it. So I need to hear from you guys. Do you remember Dino Crisis, and would you like to see it come back? Maybe see them take the gameplay in a different direction that would appeal more to modern gaming, more modern standards. I think they could do some really cool things with visuals in that game, with dinosaurs, make it super fast, very action-oriented. I think you could have something there that they might be able to build on going forward. I'd be curious if they would try to put multiplayer into that. I don't know how easy that would be to do. Maybe one group could be the dinosaurs, the other group could be just regular people trying to fight them. I don't know. You guys will have to let me know about that and how they can take this in a more modern era kind of direction here. Next up, the indies on the Switch keep on rolling. We've talked about different sales. We even talked about on Spawncast how indie games are really propping the Switch up now. I think it's having a lot of PC owners look into this because they're games that they recognize from Steam and things like that. And it's almost like it's a really cool portable indie machine for PC enthusiasts to use on the go, because they just keep getting indie games that fill in a lot of the gaps between releases, and they keep selling. Enter the Gungeon came out now, and after 2 weeks said, hey, we've sold 75,000 copies of this game, which is very large. I mean, it's like a smaller indie twin-stick shooter kind of game, but it's a very cool game. It's a great game. And they've sold well. 75,000 for an indie game like that is great. They are super happy about it, which also tells me you're going to see more and more indie games. I know we're seeing a lot now. It seems like every time you throw on the Switch, there's another game coming out that day or the next, and it's like an indie game. So you think it's a lot now. Wait till the second, the third year. Nintendo is going to have to be a little careful here with their quality control. I will say that, because if every indie game tries to go to the Switch, much like they do with Steam, you could get into some issues with a lot of like junk shovelware stuff. So I hope Nintendo at least keeps some quality control up here and doesn't just let everybody walk through the door onto the Switch, because I have picked out a few really bad games that Nintendo really should have caught and not let on this system. There's I can't remember the name completely, but there is a mobile game essentially on there that they charge money for, and they have microtransactions, and it's not good. So I don't know, guys. Let me know what you think about a lot of the indie games coming, because it seems like indie games sell well, and they're going to continue to prop up the Switch in the I assume years to come now. Next up, I want to talk about a little bit about retro news, and I saw this article. It was on Kotaku, well-written article about how retro stores. Well, I used to actually run a retro store, so I can actually comment on this pretty well. Retro Store said their best-selling console this past holiday season was the Nintendo 64, and I completely understand this. I'll talk to you a little bit about this, but according to them, several stores had sold hundreds of N64s. First of all, if you're able to get that many N64s, it's pretty impressive. They seem to interview different stores in places like New York, bigger city type areas, whereas we were in a smaller, like, suburb kind of area. But still, N64, when I was really running the store a couple years ago, was like on the uptick. It was still very much NES and Super Nintendo, but man, if I could find 64s around Christmas time, they would sell out constantly, and it was definitely building because the prices continued to go up, and the supply was going down. But things like new controllers, where Retrobit and others were bringing them out, would sell out like crazy, along with the system, expansion packs. I could kind of see this coming. So in the last year I was running it, I remember I stocked up heavily on Nintendo 64, and it did really well. So I completely understand the age group is the people who had the N64 are now old enough to buy everything. They're in like their mid-20s now. So yes, you're going to see a lot of that, especially at Christmas time now. And I do think the N64 works better for like a party system, a crowd kind of thing. So this makes complete sense. I think we will eventually, it sounds crazy, but I think in the next year or two, we're going to see the GameCube become that. We're going to see the GameCube become the new popular system at Christmas time. And it kind of already was when I was running it as well, because the prices on the games were really starting to spike. But I think it's going to get to that point where those people get old enough to then go back and buy their childhood. It's kind of funny to think about some of these the people who maybe grew up with the original Xbox. That's their retro system. It's still crazy to me, since the retro system to me is still the NES and the Super Nintendo. But hey, I mean, you know, the generations keep going, and systems, all the systems get older every day. So it's a retro system to somebody will eventually be the 360. It'll eventually be the Xbox One and the PS4, and so on. And in our last bit of news, I want to talk about a game that was actually announced. It was teased ahead of time by Circle Entertainment, and they teased that there would be an announcement for the Switch on the 1st of January. And they followed through, because we are getting on the Nintendo Switch a collection of strategy RPGs. These are called Mercenary Chronicles. All three are going to the Switch. The first one, the second one, and the third one. Now, the second and third one are already out in English on iOS, Android, and 3DS, but the first one is not. It's only in Japan. So this is going to mark the first time that this game has actually come in English to American audiences and others around the world, basically outside of Japan. And this is really cool, because I've told you guys several times I like strategy RPGs, and this is going to be a full collection, so it has me very excited to see this. I love like games like Disgaea, for example. Love that game. So I'm really excited to play around with this one. I still really want a Final Fantasy Tactics on the Switch, but this seems like a collection of these three games. The first one making its debut outside of Japan makes me really excited for this game. I'm going to look into it further. They still have to give us more information, pricing, release date, and then any, I guess, improvements or extra content they want to add. They're going to let us know, but it's something to keep an eye on if you are a strategy RPG fan like myself. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for Newswave today. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, really helps out. Let me know about any of the stuff we talked about today, whether it's the Amazon listings that are, it's insane to see how many they were throwing up there. I'm sure some of them are multiples of the same one, like, because they had like the 60 and the 80 and the 100. Obviously the 80 and the 100 isn't the standard edition. Really, we should have gone through and just counted the $60 ones, because I'm sure the others are special edition or standard with season pass added. But still, pretty cool to see. And yes, Amazon definitely jumped the gun. Either way, whether you think there's 18 new games coming or not, they definitely, for some reason, put these listings up when they definitely shouldn't have. And also let me know about any of the other stuff, including Enter the Gungeon selling well with the indie games on the Switch. And definitely Dino Crisis, man. I need to know if anyone really remembers Dino Crisis that well or had fond memories of this game, because it seems like some people do. I just feel like other people I just don't think there's gonna be enough support there for Capcom to go, yeah, let's go get Dino Crisis and build a whole new game out of it. But hey, let me know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are a lot of Dino Crisis fans out there. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.